Hi guys, in the news this week, Britain is going to pay about £5 billion to make it more difficult for British businesses to trade with the European Union. Yes, you heard that right, more difficult. Now this comes as another Brexit-related story pops up. It's currently costing about £500 million for a trusted trader scheme to instead help facilitate trade within the UK. This relates to goods moving from Great Britain to Northern Ireland. James O'Brien questioned here why politicians are not talking about this, but instead rainbow-coloured lanyards.
It's like I turn into a sort of human snowball. Because the more I head down the hill, the bigger I get and the faster I move. Because it's insane, right? There will be no downside to Brexit, said David Davis. On the day after we leave, we will be in Berlin, striking deals with the Germans, which is literally not allowed under the terms of EU membership. The levels of ignorance that these people deployed, I think it's impossible to exaggerate them. I could even sit here now for 20 minutes running through contenders for what the best illustration is of just how stupid these people were and are. Jacob Rees-Mogg talking about how introducing border checks would be an act of national self-harm. For once, in the spirit of a stopped clock, actually being right, but completely failing to mention or understand that the border checks were essentially being introduced as a direct consequence of the Brexit that he said would make trade easier. And you sort of keep it in abeyance, don't you? You sort of keep it in the fridge, unless it's your livelihood, in which case you're probably going slowly mad. If it's your livelihood, you probably marvel. You're supposed to be getting cross this week about rainbow lanyards being worn by civil servants. That has had more attention from government ministers than the fact that, as Thomas just related in that news bulletin, the cost of implementing post-Brexit border arrangements will be at least £5 billion.
And why are politicians focusing instead on lanyards and not on this, which is costing £5 billion? Why? Well, because the media have dropped the ball. I was tearing my hair out back in 2016 when I would see night after night Nigel Farage on TV. No matter what the subject was, his response to it was, we need to leave the European Union. The NHS is on its knees, even back in 2016. We need to leave the European Union. Too many foreigners coming in, putting too much pressure on the NHS. Housing is an issue. Well, there are too many foreigners coming in. We need to leave the European Union. You name the issue, and his response was, we need to leave the European Union. Now, there are two problems here. First, his lies and his charlatanism was being amplified. And second, he wasn't being properly challenged. From time to time, somebody would push back a little bit, maybe an unknown expert, or maybe even a journalist. But generally, he was given free run to spew whatever lies he wanted. And his response was to every crisis, we need to leave the European Union. And that, of course, filtered down into people's minds. And they were looking around saying, after many years of austerity, cutbacks, a Tory government, they realised, well, everything is really bad. And this guy, Nigel Farage, who seems to be quite successful, is saying, well, if we leave the European Union, everything will be better. We'll be able to have a functioning NHS. We'll be able to have functioning schools. We'll have smaller class sizes. People will not be struggling. The economy will boom. These were the lies that were being pushed. Not just by Nigel Farage, but by Jacob Rees-Mogg, Boris Johnson, David Davis, and all of these others. And the challenge from the media was pretty much nothing. So on the one hand, you had them amplified, their lies amplified. And on the other hand, there was very little pushback. This is the problem. And now politicians know they can rely on the media to push stories about lanyards instead of actually the real issue here of £5 billion wasted. For what? £5 billion you're not going to get back. How many hospitals could be upgraded with that money? How many schools could be built? How many teachers could be employed? Doctors, nurses retained with that money? Down the toilet. For what? What is on the other side of the scale? What is worth all of this? Some people will say sovereignty. Well, now we can make our own rules. Although when you ask them, what are these rules? What rules are you happy to see gone? they can't come up with anything. And unfortunately, not always, but in most cases, if you scratch the surface enough, you get to the point of immigration. Well, we left because we just want to reduce immigration. Well, then how is that working out? Because the people who, at the end of the day, voted to reduce immigration are looking at record immigration. And of course, the Brexiteers have been in charge. You can't blame Theresa May now. You can't blame Remainers. You can't blame Tony Blair or even David Cameron. Boris Johnson, Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak, all Brexiteers, Liz Truss a convert but still a Brexiteer, those people were in charge. And we still hear it's the Remainers' fault. But of course the problem here is with the media allowing these politicians to distract the public on lanyards when the whole country is burning down. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.